Hey guys, just a quick announcement before we jump in. Esports Insider is testing some new podcast formats, and this interview is actually the pilot for a new show that we're calling The Industry. All the moving pieces haven't been finalized yet, but we wanted to publish this episode as the contents of the interview are timely. In the future, the production will be cohesive and upscaled, so look forward to new interviews coming soon. That's it. Enjoy the show. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the pilot episode of The Industry, a new Esports Insider podcast focused on people and personalities in the esports industry. I'm your host, Kerry Wananen, and we're going to be kicking off this debut episode with a very special guest. I'm joined by Zach Mazzotta, Gaming Partnerships Manager at Twitter.com. Now, if you've been following along with esports, you have found yourself on the Bird site. So much conversation happens around esports among personalities, among streamers. So much banter is facilitated by the short form communication that Twitter allows. And I'm super pleased to be joined today by Zach to learn more about Twitter's role in esports. But Zach, let's first start off with a little introduction about yourself and how you wound up at Twitter.
Gary, first off, thanks so much for having me. My background, so I'm 32 now. I started going to gaming events when I was 16, fell in love with tournaments. That was back in the Major League Gaming Halo 2 days. Since then, I've worked at Major League Gaming full-time, went to work at Machinima full-time, producing esports content there, behind the scenes, docuseries, etc. After that, went on to ESL, worked there for about a year. Then I went to work for a live streaming company called Lightstream. And then after that, went to SteelSeries, worked a lot with content creators and esports teams. And then finally ended up at Twitter in June of 2019. So I've been here for a little over 2.5 years now.
So you seems like you have been in gaming and esports the entire time. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I know that you're based in California right now. Have you always been based there?
No, so I'm actually from Connecticut originally. Grew up there, went to college in Vermont, and then after that went to work for MLG in New York City for about 8 months, and then had a job offer to move to Los Angeles in 2012. So it's actually 10 years ago, about this time, that I was moving out to Los Angeles to take the job at Machinima. And I've been out here ever since, which is just crazy. I never thought in a million years I'd be living in Los Angeles.
Yeah, Los Angeles is also a big hub for, not only esports and esports orgs, but also Riot is there, and also the entire entertainment industry basically as well. So it also seems, it makes sense that there is such a big scene there. Do you ever, I'm sure you don't get out too much nowadays, but you ever run into sort of people involved in the scene, or like local tournaments and the like?
Yeah, every so often there'll be a get together, a gathering, and you'll end up, you'll be like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. This is really just in the COVID era that we find ourselves in now. But before, I guess, COVID, grabbing lunch with people and stopping by team houses and things like that. Wish we could get back to a place where that's a little bit more normal. I was getting requests to do lunches this month, and as like Omicron has picked up, I'm like kind of like, I don't know if we should be like meeting and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, Los Angeles is certainly the hub for esports and gaming. So it makes things a lot easier to be out here and just be present and be near where all the action's happening.
Speaking of where the action is happening, it's happening on Twitter. Absolutely. Can you walk us through a little bit about what makes Twitter gaming different from the other arms and departments of Twitter, and what the real focus on, other than obviously gaming, of what the Twitter gaming department is trying to facilitate in terms of engagement and conversation on the platform?
For sure. Yeah. So I actually sit on the global content partnerships team here at Twitter. And what that really means is I get to work with esports teams, esports leagues, game developers, publishers, content creators, whether they're Twitch streamers, YouTubers, etc., to one, make them better at using Twitter, give them access to new tools, help them out with their account, just provide best practices, things like that. And then two, there's also a revenue generation aspect of this where we can actually allow some of our partners to make money on the platform, and we work with them to do so. So I actually don't work on the @Twitter gaming account. That's actually run by a separate social team. They're great, but our paths cross a lot. And typically, if I'm doing something over here, I can be like, "Hey guys, do you want to jump in?" And that's why you see a lot of the social coverage happening for esports events and things like that.
And so behind the scenes, sort of like the partnership side of things, as you're saying, working together to help people get better at the platform, but also enable them through the new developments with like the super follow and tipping and these sort of monetization aspects. I read an interview recently with your colleague Rishi Shada, I think it's pronounced. Did I mess that up too bad?
Yep.
Yeah.
Rishi Shada. Yep.
Yeah, Rishi Shada. And at DigiDay with a friend of mine, Alexander Lee, and he was talking about also enabling these creators through new engagement tools, but also not only through enhanced analytics and stuff, but the monetization and really letting these different pillars, at least that he was concerned of, gaming and esports really benefit from Twitter in ways that they hadn't been able to do this before. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how those have developed internally from your time, and potentially what sort of successes that you and the team have seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So super follows and tipping they're certainly newer. But I'll backtrack and go to Amplify Pre-roll. Amplify Pre-roll is our programmatic video monetization tool, which is it's a mouthful there, but basically what that is that allows me to post a video on Twitter and then click a checkbox and say, do I want to monetize this video? Click yes, and then you post it to Twitter, and we automatically attach pre-roll to that video, and then the person makes money. So that when I started, I think there was only 150 partners in the program, and now it's up to probably about 250 or so. So we're growing that rapidly, and partners are earning more and more money. And so that one is certainly a staple for us, and we're trying to get more partners in it. There's also we're also really focusing on diversity there. About 40% of the folks in that program are from underrepresented communities, and we're trying to grow that even more. And then, as you mentioned, super follows and tipping, that's a huge, huge growth area for us. And we're going to continue to put more effort and emphasis in that in this year.
Yeah. Video is such a strong component of esports content, especially with orgs, sort of being their own media companies, being able to put out high quality video super consistently. I can really see that the pre-roll service that you guys offer really standing a lot of benefit. If you're able to put out more content, you're able to monetize it better. It's a win-win for everybody. Plus all the natural engagement that happens with Twitter and sharing and all of these things. I think it's sort of aptly named there, Amplify, of really, if you're going to put content out there, let's do the most that we can, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
It's, people are already doing this. People are already posting this video content. Why not make some money off of it?
Yeah. So in terms of how you work with partners, right? I'm sure that there's multiple people in your department that have a similar role as you in terms of facilitating these sort of things. What is the biggest area, I guess, of opportunity and growth that you guys are really working towards this year and the next?
For sure. Obviously, revenue is certainly a focus for us. So our Amplify pre-roll program, as well as we also have another program called Amplify Sponsorships. So we actually have partnerships with Riot Games and Activision Blizzard, et cetera, that allows us to actually package their content. As an example, for Activision Blizzard, we can package the best highlight clips from the CDL and go out and find an advertiser and then pair that advertiser with those highlight clips. So that's a focus for us for sure. And then, growing the Amplify pre-roll program. In addition to that, product adoption. So as you mentioned earlier, getting more of our partners involved in super followers, as well as tipping, as well as communities. Communities came out in Q3, Q4 of last year, and that'll be a large focus for us this year. And then, who knows what other products will be coming down the pipeline soon, but product adoption for us is always really important. Spaces too. I'd be remiss not to mention spaces, getting more of our partners to do more spaces, things like that.
Yeah, Spaces has been an interesting one. I found myself in a few of them. I mean, being over here in Amsterdam in the European time zone hasn't really caught on with at least the people that I've followed as much as I've really seen it later at night when I'm scrolling through Twitter. And like the North American time zone, it seems to be has caught on with the people that I follow much, much more. And I think it's also a really interesting, I think the integration of Spaces while being able to also, live tweet it and, contribute to the conversation and help bring people in there is a really, really engaging and interesting way that implements a lot of things that, Clubhouse or these other sort of non-text based or having sort of a less of a visual element really just they don't have the benefit that Twitter has there. So have you guys seen a large growth, or not even growth, but just adaption in Twitter Spaces with gaming and esports communities?
I think we're definitely seeing more and more adoption of the product as people become more familiar with it, as it's been out in the wild for a little over a year now. I know some of our partners off the top of my head that use it are, IGN uses it pretty regularly. Jeff Keighley uses it pretty regularly. You'll have some of the commentators from the Call of Duty League actually host spaces before certain matches or weekends. So I think it's definitely picking up. And I think, we put out the ability for you to record a space that came out in the past month or so. So I think that was really important. So, if you miss a space, you can always catch it after, which, was always kind of a bummer when you missed a space, then you went to go listen to it and you can just never listen to it. So I think that was pretty important too.
Yeah. And that also sort of, comes back to, the first novel appeal of, the social audio aspect was that you had to be there and that when it was gone, it was gone. And so that sort of definitely added a bit to the stickiness of it. But then at the same time, it really was just having you be on your phone all the time to try to catch as much. And of course, lots of different fresh content and stuff. And in a way, I sometimes before at the beginning, treated it a bit like having the radio on, just, finding things and just having it on or whatever. But then like all things, got a little bit of burnt out of that. And also the discovery aspect was not so good. So it's integration in Twitter there. If you're already finding people or following people to get their insight or their thoughts on matters and get updates from them, then it follows that you would be interested in a space that they would be participating in, right? So recently, just this week, actually, the Twitter gaming report of 2021 of this past year just came out. And I want to take some time to chat a little bit about that because it's pretty interesting. And I'd first just like to hear from your side. I don't know how much you and the members of your team really worked on this. But I just really like if you could introduce this report a little bit for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Rishi and I are in the weeds with this. So, what you're seeing there is this what we've dug up, and the images that you're seeing there are something I created, as well as one of our newer hires, Francisco. He's awesome. But anyways, yes, this is a report we do every year in the beginning of January. This is our 2021 version. Total gaming tweets are up 14% year over year, with over 2.4 billion. Honestly, looking at 2020, we had over 2 billion or so then. I was like, how are we going to top that? Just because there was like a really big growth last year, I think in part due to COVID. And then also you had the new gaming consoles, like the Xbox Series X and the PS5. And I was like, going into 2021, I was like, how are we going to top this? But lo and behold, we did 14% up year over year. And yeah, aside from that, there are a ton of different stats in here, like the most tweeted about game, most tweeted about esports team, player, et cetera, et cetera.
Was there anything that really surprised you in this report this year besides the growth that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I mean, going into it, I think Genshin Impact taking number one for the most tweeted about game. I think obviously the game is very popular in Japan, but it also is really popular in North America too. That dethroned Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing was our number one most tweeted about game last year. And now I think Animal Crossing was number 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken. So that was surprising. Do you want to just jump into like some of like the themes that I noticed into the report, or yeah, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, so for those that haven't read the report, I'll just quickly run through just the top games really quick, and we can sort of pick and choose which ones we want to talk about. But for instance, the number one most tweeted about game was Genshin Impact. Number 2, Apex Legends, which is obviously an esports title. Number 3, Ensemble Stars, which I think is Japanese. I haven't heard about that, and I can't say that I would recognize a tweet about that, but maybe I'm just not in the right community for that. Final Fantasy was number 4. Number 5, Fate/Grand Order, another title I haven't heard about at all. I guess I'm out of the loop. Number 6 was Animal Crossing New Horizons. The darling shifted down to 6. 7, Knives Out, also a mobile esports title. Number 8, Minecraft, just continues to be popular. Minecraft, yep. I think, will never, ever go away. So
that and Grand Theft Auto, you like can't kill those titles. They just keep coming back.
Yeah, yeah. Number 9 is Project Sekai, another title I haven't heard about. And then also, surprising to me, number 10, Fortnite. Not surprising that people are talking about it, but that people are talking about it so much still that it rounded out number 10. So I just have a quick question about these. When you were going through to populate this list, how did you go about, I'm sure that you guys have such an insane back-end analytics and you're able to search and find things in more nuanced ways than your average user could. But I'm curious just to know about how did you get them? Like was it searching these titles with all these, keeping in mind maybe misspellings, searching hashtags, tags, all these things? It must have been such a large amount of work to populate this list.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an internal tool that basically tracks all this for us. So we have all these different domains, whether they are games, esports teams, esports leagues, etc. You click into it and it'll actually tell you the ranking of all these different teams or these different entities and domains. So when we create these entities, we can actually go in and say anytime that someone uses this hashtag or uses this word or is spelled like this, it'll get attributed towards this entity. So that's how we track all these different things.
Cool. And the next on the list is the most tweeted about esports athletes, which also some of these are also surprising and makes me feel also out of the loop with some of these. But yeah, while esports is still a niche within gaming, it does have really dedicated and really engaged fans. So that's, there are different corners that maybe don't cross so much, but super, super interesting, I think, here. And so number 1, we have Mongrel, which if I'm not mistaken is from the UK. Number 2, we have Booga, which is, the most famous Fortnite player. A bit surprising, but probably has a super engaged fan base as well. Benji Fishy is number 3. Scump from Call of Duty. Number 4, Reckless from League of Legends, obviously number 5. Nobrew at number 6. Fallen from Counter-Strike, number 7. Mixwell and 10Z. And then Simple rounding out number 10. So definitely some big names, but definitely a few of these that I didn't recognize.
I think. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I think for this one, the top 3 are all Fortnite players, right? Which is pretty crazy, as so many people always, well, not so many people on the platform will respond to the Fortnite game account and say dead game, dead game, dead game. But like, it's very clear that the game is not dead, as the game also appeared at number 10 in our most tweeted about games, right? I think it also showcases how these pro esports players are actually, they're creating content, and how important it is to create content in addition to participating in esports events. In addition to that, I think you also have Simple on there. He won his first major this year, which is awesome. But he's also on Twitch every so often, which one showcases the importance of streaming. Scump is also on there, as you mentioned. He also is a streamer and content creator. So I think we see kind of like a relation to content creation and how popular a certain esports player is.
Right. And also, I think the ability to make the best use out of their Twitter account. Also, I mean, I think so many pros, probably a vast majority of them, have a Twitter account, but maybe don't really know so well how to use it, or how to best use it, or maybe, they need a manager, maybe it doesn't fit into their schedule or whatever. So I think that also, that probably falls into the, like, your realm of work, right? Is helping educate people on how to better use the platform and how to get better returns for their efforts on the platform, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Working with either team managers or players directly, educating them on, how to use Twitter, when to use it, how to use it effectively, things like that. Definitely a big focus for us. Also wanted to call out two other things on the top most tweeted about esports players, both Fallen and Nobrew. Fallen, of course, is the player for Team Liquid now. He's also Brazilian. Same thing with Nobrew. He is a Free Fire player and also, I think, the owner of an esports team, also based in Brazil. So just goes to show you the power of Brazil too.
Yeah, continuing with the power of Brazil, the number one most tweeted esports team was Loud. And I mean, Loud is a very powerful esports entity overall, globally in the world, but definitely in Brazil. And a lot of those tweets are gonna be in Portuguese and not in English. So that also shows a massive, enormous corner of Twitter that your, like English speaking or English native speaking corner of Twitter is not involved in generally, besides maybe likes and retweets or whatever. So that also is, just really shows that do not sleep on Brazil, really, because if you're not paying attention, they are topping the charts left and right. Just quickly running through the most tweeted about esports teams. Many of these aren't a surprise, probably to those keeping score, but we have number 2 coming in at FaZe Clan, number 3, Pain Gaming, number 4, G2, number 5, Fnatic, number 6, Furia Esports, 7, 100 Thieves, 8, Team Detonation, 9, T1, and number 10, Team Liquid. Anything surprising here in this list for you, Zach?
I think I'm just going to echo what you just said. Don't sleep on Brazil, as Loud, Fury, and Pain, of course, are all Brazilian teams. Loud also, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but Loud is the team with the most followers gained in 2021, and they are also the number 5 for most video views in 2021. It's no doubt about it that Brazil is a huge powerhouse, and they're here to stay for sure.
Yeah, their fans are also super engaged, super vocal, and really, really, really passionate about esports and the teams that they support. We'll skip down the list a little bit, and what is, not necessarily surprising, but I think the order of how these stacked up in terms of countries tweeting the most about gaming is a bit surprising. Number 1 being Japan. Japan is a big deal in a lot of things, but size-wise and population-wise is much smaller than the U.S., which comes in at number 2. That was pretty surprising to me. And then, Asia just has a strong representation here, with number 3 being South Korea, number 4, Thailand, number 5, Brazil, number 6, the Philippines, 7, Indonesia, number 8, also punching above their weight, I think, a little bit, being the United Kingdom, number 9, France, and number 10, India. Was there anything that, any anecdotes or anything that you wanna share about this list?
Yeah, absolutely. For Japan, there's no doubt about that. Japan certainly dictates a lot of our most tweeted about games list. As you see, I think there was 5 or 6 games on there that are all Japanese titles or Asian titles. So with that said, though, I think you have to think about the tweeting habits of these people in Japan. A lot of these folks actually have multiple accounts, and they're a lot more liberal with how they tweet, their retweets, and just the amount they're engaging with. They're tweeting just a lot more. So while, yes, it's a smaller population, these folks are actually just tweeting a lot.
Yeah, and it also must be said that Twitter in China is banned. So China doesn't have a representation outside of people using a VPN, which would also place them outside of China. So that's nothing we can really account for there, right? China just cannot really be accounted for on Twitter, but I'm sure that they would be up there as well because, especially in esports, China is cleaning up in quite a lot of titles. But we can't measure what we don't know. So sorry that they're not included in this conversation. But most tweeted about gaming events. E3 really surprised me. I was super surprised about that, but I think it also it makes sense because people couldn't go. So you sort of had to tweet about it in a way. Number 2 coming in at the Game Awards, and number 3 being the Xbox Game Showcase, Gamescom 2021, and then rounding out the list being Summer Games Fest 2021 as well. Anything that you wanted to share about this one other than the fact that a lot of these people couldn't physically attend?
Yeah, I think for E3 is typically our most tweeted about gaming event of the year, just because so many different walks of life are engaged and really focused on this event and like hyped up for it. I think in the instance of last year, right, there was just a lot of anticipation for new games, and like there also wasn't. E3 was skipped on 2020, so last year it was like kind of a redemption year, and I think a lot of eyes were on E3 to see what they could do. There's no doubt about it that people always get hyped about E3 and what comes with E3.
Yeah, and I think that this list will be also pretty interesting this next year as well, in terms of, E3 basically they got to figure something out with what they're going to do, and I think having yet another year of not being able to really give an E3 might no longer be viable. The Game Awards, I think, will continue, and Xbox. I think, it also really depends on the nature of what the event is about, right? E3 is, before it was really a industry only, showcase, and then a few years ago, maybe 5-10 years ago, they opened it up to the public, and it became this big thing, and they're really pushed the conversation for months leading up and months afterwards. But when you don't have the same appeal just because of how the world is right now, it's hard to demand the same attention as well. So I think that this will be an interesting list, definitely next year. But also, I think you guys put out a sort of a 6-month report also, right? Like a summer half year.
We'll look to put out another report probably for like early July that will sum up, how the first 6 months of the year have went.
Yeah. Sort of building off that point, do you have any experience in that people maybe seeing the half one report and sort of wanting, thinking, okay, we gotta make some moves here, and we're trying to really push those numbers?
Oh, for sure. When I meet with our esports partners like FaZe and so forth, they knew they were behind with Loud. So who knows if that kind of dictates their strategy and they try to get more mentions and things like that. But there's no doubt about it that these organizations are aware of this report. And I don't know for certain if they're doing certain things to try and get more engagement, but I would presume so.
Yeah, the numbers are there. Like, you can't ignore them at that point. talking about the most tweeted about gaming creators, the only one that I recognize here is Dream, which to me just shows how much bigger the overall gaming creator space is than esports, where I recognize most of the esports athletes. But in terms of gaming is just so much, so like the scale is just massive in comparison because there's so many different titles, so many different genres as well that just aren't fit into esports. So I think that, I don't know if you, I guess I recognize Corpse Husband as well, but yeah, I don't have much to contribute to
Yeah,
this one because I just
just
feel out of the loop.
no, you're good. So, some high level thoughts on this one. Uh, the Dream Team, as they're called, is kind of a Minecraft collective of George Not Found, Sapnap, Dream. I think Bad Boy Halo is maybe number 4, like an unofficial member. So for all of them to be featured, that just kind of showcases the power of Minecraft. The first person is, hopefully I don't butcher their names, Colin or Colin. They're a virtual YouTuber based in Japan. Felipe Neto is another Brazilian creator. So once again, more power to Brazil. Ibai is actually, he was on our list last year. I think he might have been number 1. I can't remember. But he's no stranger to these lists. And he's also just had a huge year, and he's very popular in Spain. And I think, those are my thoughts on that list.
It would be interesting to sort of pick apart the numbers a little bit between followers, between the top esports athletes and the top creators, because creators, by definition of their job is, they're creating content and they're probably growing at, astronomical rates as compared to esports athletes that also they have to train and they have to compete. And so they just don't have the same workload, and the sort of product of their work is not always contributing to their growth in this sense. Obviously, they are featured on big streams for competitions and stuff. And then I'm sure that also helps out in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I think comparing the two is a bit apples to oranges because they're very, very different, but just, having the same or utilizing the same core sort of resource of gaming as well. That sort of puts them in the same bucket there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have much more to add to that one. I think, to your point though, content creation is always going to propel, I think, growth. And as we were talking about earlier, for those esports athletes that were mentioned, a lot of them are creating content. So similarly, you're going to see a lot more growth with these creators and a lot more followers.
Yeah. And like going down the list also to top gaming creators by most video views, we have Ibai there as well. He tops off that list. Godaga from France at number 2. And then we have Tim the Tapman, very, very popular in the US. And now he's a co-owner of Complexity.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think I should put money on that because I should be right. I shouldn't be wrong about that one. And then Scump, our boy Scump, he's really prolific content creator and esports athlete all around. The kid is killing it. And then number 5, Dr. Disrespect, who is, I think as esports adjacent as they come. I think he doesn't have any stakes as far as I know in the esports ecosystem, other than he streams with a lot of popular esports athletes and team owners and this, a top level content creator by any measure. And also creates phenomenal content as well. So yeah, I would say, other than Ibai, which I unfortunately don't know too much about, have to give that guy a follow to check it out. And also from France, Godaga probably also creating content in French as well. So that also is a different aspect of things. But yeah, as we know, video is so powerful in content creation, especially, but also with gaming. That's what people want, I think.
Yeah, Ibai had a big year last year. I think he was even interviewing like Lionel Messi. For a gamer to be interviewing Lionel Messi, like that's kind of crazy. Gotaga is another one where he used to be a former pro Call of Duty player and then switched to content creation. So he's been around for some time now. And then Tim and Scump are always going to be up there, as well as Doc. very eager to see what happens with Dr. Disrespect's new game studio that was announced in, I think it was December of last year.
Yeah. I don't know if you. So it's Midnight Society is like the new company. No, right? I think it is Midnight Society.
I believe you're right, and the handle is 12 a.m. because I helped them
12 a.m.
on
Yeah,
Twitter.
I just joined their Discord server. Midnight Society, and it's because they tweeted. So they're doing a sort of like actual reality game based in ARG. So it's they're utilizing their Discord server in a really interesting way of releasing little bits of interactive content in a sort of old school text-based RPG where they have a bot in their Discord server that you DM and then it tells you what's going on and then you have to respond or whatever. It's pretty fun. And a lot of like hints and stuff or updates are given through their Twitter. So they're using like sort of the Twitter to attract their audience. And then within the Discord server, they're, that's where all the sort of action is happening internally and stuff. So it's a really clever use, I think, of the social media and then the like internal sort of community as well. And so, I'm curious if you have seen other like gaming creators or orgs or companies or publishers using Twitter in such a other interesting ways and engaging ways.
For sure. We've worked with I work with like Epic and Riot on some what we call like innovative content experiences. So one example was something we did with Epic and Fortnite for their last chapter launch, where the whole island flipped over, and we wanted to do something to kind of replicate that on platform. So we worked with a third party vendor and devised a system where you could use a hashtag, and the program would look at your avatar, identify if it was brand safe, and then flip it over for you and send it back to you so that you could actually change your avatar to replicate the island flipping. We've done some other stuff too, where you could actually rep your favorite team from an esports organization and put it in your Twitter banner. So for instance, we did something with the Valorant Champions Tour last year, where you could choose the team that was participating in the event, use the hashtag, and then respond back to the handle. They would automatically generate an image with you, send it back to you, and then you could put update your banner. So that's, I think, kind of the beauty of Twitter is there's a lot of flexibility in some of the stuff we can do, which is really cool.
I think that's super cool. I mean, it's like with using Twitter's API and also with these other partners, people can really be creative in the tools that Twitter uses. I mean, not only for engagement, but also to create compelling content that, is native to the platform and, really speaks, as you were just sort of like talking about, making it brand safe so that bigger organizations don't have to be just, chasing memes or whatever, that they can really work together with Twitter to make these unique experiences. Super cool.
Definitely. And that's kind of just the tip of the iceberg too. We've also done stuff with DM experiences where, for instance, the Overwatch League, you could slide in their DMs and you could choose who you thought was going to win the tournament. And then it would generate a bracket for you that you could share out and get people talking about, who you thought was going to win and so forth.
Yeah. So at the end of this list, I'm just going to go through these really quick because we're running out of time, and I want to ask you a few more, pick your brain a little bit more. But so the end of the list, we're rounding out. We're talking about the most tweeted about esports leagues, which is also interesting. So the CBL should be no surprise is the most tweeted about, and that's the Brazilian League of Legends. Professional top tier league. And then we have the Call of Duty League, which I was surprised about, but I definitely see a lot of Call of Duty League discourse on Twitter. That definitely is the case. Then number 3, Valorant. Valorant had a really great year in all aspects last year. Then we have Overwatch League and then the LCS. So 3 of these, the Call of Duty League, Overwatch League, and LCS, while they're not specific, but they are pretty focused on the North American audience there. Of course, the Call of Duty League has some others outside of that. I'm pretty sure. Definitely the Overwatch League has some Chinese teams and France and the UK as well. And then Valorant Esports hasn't divided into regions yet, at least in terms of their accounts. So that was all of Valorant Esports there. But yeah, I mean, so we have Brazil and then North America, and then obviously, with the exceptions there, and then the global Valorant esports. And then, yeah, did you have anything interesting there to add?
Yeah, I mean, just the common theme, right? Brazil leading the charge. And then Call of Duty League, as you mentioned, the Call of Duty League lives on Twitter. All the players are always on Twitter. They're tweeting all the time. That community is so engaged and leaned in. I think they're one of the communities I point to when I talk about, the most engaged esports communities for sure. Valorant Esports, as you mentioned, that is the global handle. They do have like their NA and EU handles. But that is the global handle that, typically runs the major events through and things like that. Overwatch League still in the top 5. That's great to see. Will be interesting to see what happens in 2022. And then, rounding it out, the North American LCS, which is cool.
Yeah. And so then we have the most videos played. So we have real quick, we'll just go through that. The LOL Esports, their main accounts, then Valorant Esports, so Riot putting up numbers. The Call of Duty League, number 3, makes sense as well. And then the ESL Counter-Strike as well. They're I think one of the biggest operators of Counter-Strike. And so I think it's interesting because in a way, this isn't necessarily reflective of potentially the most popular, but it is the most popular on Twitter, right? So that's a distinction to be made. And then rounding out the bottom of the list there, we have the League of Legends Championship Series. So that's the North American Championship Series. So we have League of Legends on there twice. We have the overall, the global LOL Esports, and then the LCS picking up at number 5 there. And then real quick, we'll just combine these two. Then the top esports leagues by followers gained, blown away that the Fortnite competitive series is number 1. And then we have Valorant number 2. As we said, Valorant had a great year and got a lot of attention, and a lot of it's very well deserved. LOL Esports coming in at number 3. Curiously enough, the LEC it makes the list as most followers gained, and then Valorant Esports NA. So we have Riot, we have Epic leading the way, and then Riot cleaning up the rest of their chart.
Exactly. Yeah. It goes back to our earlier point with Fortnite still very much alive and kicking, as well as, Riot had a massive year with 4 out of the 5 leagues featured here. And I don't see any signs of slowing down as we're in 2022, and sounds like they're going to be gearing up for even more leagues and stuff soon.
Really, really curious to see how Riot develops the Valorant regional leagues and how that develops as well. And then also giving more attention and developing and bringing together all the different regional leagues for League together. And then if we actually see their fabled fighting game come out this year, I'm not expecting it to, but it very well could be. I think that could also show tons and tons and tons of growth as well.
They commented on it. They did like a little highlight on it, and then they didn't really give us a release date, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's such a great use of social media also to tease, to put something out there and let people know that you should be keeping your eyes peeled for more news. I was just curious, just to round out our conversation, Zach, did you have any standout moments in 2021? In personally yourself, but also moments on Twitter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a bunch of stuff that stuck out. Me personally, I'm a huge Halo fan, so having Halo Infinite launch, I was super stoked to see that finally see the light of day. I thought it was an absolute masterclass in how they launched it as well. Every week, it seemed like they had new content leading up to the launch. I would urge anyone to go look at how they launched that game for a masterclass at launching games. On Twitter, I think there were some really fun stunts when you look at like 100 Thieves and when their intern JHP took over the account, or you had Hastro and Nate Shaw or 100 Thieves going at it in the beginning of the year. Never forget when Myth threw controller players under the bus, and that ignited a war one day. For like general gaming stuff, I think Xbox acquiring Bethesda. I think Sony acquired something like 5 studios last year, which is just mind-boggling. And as we talked a little bit about it earlier, it was just cool to see E3 coming back in a big way last year.
Yeah. Also, I think with Sony acquiring Evo, also was a big standout moment for me as well. That was like really big news and really interesting. And then also, of course, it was later revealed. Maybe if you're super sleuth that you saw it before, it was sort of announced, but that Pokemon's RTS was also involved in the acquisition in Evo. So she's involved with running an esports tournament now. One of the, I would say arguably the biggest fighting game community esports tournament around. So that I think was a pretty big announcement as well. And yeah, I think sort of what you were saying of just the power of Twitter, of just, a tweet to launch 1,000 ships, super fun. And also, the banner on Twitter is always, it's top notch, really. I think you can have a conversation and a discourse on Twitter in a very unique way that on other social media platforms just don't lend themselves to the same. So I think Twitter is super important and super popular with the gaming community and esports community for good reason. And I honestly couldn't imagine the community and the industry without Twitter, of having a place. I also personally, I see a lot of people take to Twitter to complain about, stuff they wouldn't necessarily complain about on LinkedIn, professionals that I follow that, Twitter is the place that this is definitely sort of what it's here for, of being candid and open and sharing your thoughts, whereas other social media platforms are, have different purposes as well. So I just wanted to ask really quick, Zach, if you had any final thoughts or any predictions of where you think 2022 is gonna end up.
For sure. Just some high level thoughts. I'd say similar to what we were talking about with Doc Studio and 12 a.m. I think there has definitely been a shift where AAA developers are actually leaving these bigger companies and raising capital and starting their own studios. So we might start to see new games coming out of these smaller studios, which would be cool. In addition to that, I think I'd be remiss not to mention anything in regards to crypto. I feel like every day we're seeing some argument about NFTs and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know where it's going to boil over. I don't know if anything will come of it. But I have a feeling we're going to keep seeing more arguments about NFTs and crypto in the gaming space in the near future and beyond, until someone has really figured it out and showcases, hey, this actually makes a lot of sense for it to be here. So I think those two things I would say are themes as we head into 2022.
Yeah. And also it helps that the crypto community also loves Twitter. So they're always there to gas one another up. And then also the crypto critics are also always there to, throw trending tweets under the bus or subtweet or all of these things. So I think the communities share a lot of sort of competencies in using the platform, I would say, for discussion and also best utilizing the tools that are available. But I agree. I think until we see the ship crash and burn or actually make it to the moon, it's not going to leave us alone. I think crypto is creeping into everything and really has shown a really strong presence in gaming and esports, not only in partnerships, but also with the developments with blockchain gaming and play to earn or play and earn, or all these other different models that everyone is sort of really promoting or really looking down upon. I'm with you 100%. But hey, Zach, you're on Twitter. Where can people find you on Twitter?
Of course. Yeah. My username is ZCHMZ. 5 letters, sort of my name, not really, but yeah, ZCHMZ.
Yeah, easy to find you there. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the debut episode of The Industry. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. And I look forward to catching up on Twitter and yeah, having you on the show again some other time.
Would absolutely love to. Thank you so much for having me for this first episode, and looking forward to it.